Hey folks, Storm Crow here, and considering that the fourth movie is coming out in 2 days on Netflix, I figured I'd talk a little bit about the Equestria Girls spin-off movies of Gen 4 My Little Pony. Uh, I may, obviously I'm going to be talking about several points that many other people have talked about it already, but I'm going to try to go through them as quick as possible, as well as give my minimal thoughts of what I feel about them. Start off with the first movie. I would agree that it suffers from like lackluster writing, I suppose, but I I, I consider I consider the first movie a more or less a grand experiment in adding a human concept to Gen 4 that hasn't been, as far as I know, hasn't been touched upon since Gen 1. Um, I suppose they could have tried to adjust it. Well, in the main series, for the most part, a elementary school level. They could have bumped it up to middle school level, maybe seventh grade or so, but they just didn't know how to execute it well, and I can't really fault them for that. Um, and of course, the obvious one, Sunset Shimmer being one of the worst villains in the franchise so far. Well, it's the first. I wouldn't really go that far. She's a good. She was introduced pretty well as a, like, I guess, an opposite parallel to Twilight, and I can understand that some of motiv her motivations for selfish uh, desire for power is standard for a typical villain, and her planning throughout the movie is a bit improvised, but it's I found it tolerant. I found it. She was a. I was. A, I was invested in her as a villain. Uh, another downside to the first movie was obvious fan pandering with a lot of background characters getting screen time. Eh, I'm not all that. I wasn't all that. Wasn't paying all much attention to them. On occasion, I was, but it didn't bother me all that much. And there were some moments that were either forced or rushed. Specifically, Sunset's apology, abrupt apology after she's defeated. At first glance, it's bad, but um, I would say that if you look at it in the right context, it made a lot of sense. As far as the outstanding positives, as I said, it was a good start off point for this kind of a spin off, adding the human aspect. As far as the songs go, and first viewing, they're not that good, but they eventually start to grow on you, especially stuff ones like Strange New World and the Cafeteria song. Though A Friend for Life just sounded a little generic to me. And uh, at the start of an overarching storyline, in hindsight, it made a lot of sense. But Rainbow Rocks definitely learned the Hasbro learned from their mistakes and pulled off a fantastic movie. Better villains in the form of the Sirens. The songs were amazing, especially the Welcome to the Show at the end. Climax was fantastic, and it made Sunset Shimmer likable and the redemption arc. Her redemption arc was amazing, and just and also the fan pandering was taken to a lesser extent, and it meshed well with the story, even though it was the pandering was barely noticeable, I guess. Only downside I would say was some moments were a little cringeworthy. Even though one of them was because of improvisation, and I can't fault them for that. Lastly, is the only movie in the series that I actually own a physical copy. Friendship Games. I had low expectations with this movie, especially since 5 months before it came out, I was kind of spoiled with the climax. Thanks a lot, Hasbro. But that's my own. I think that's my own fault, not them. For my own fault for watching the promo in the first place. And good side, upside to this one was as a musical compared to the original, it plays out better as a musical. Songs are extremely catchy, especially ones like Akadeka, What More Is Out There, and Unleash the Magic, which complement the climax very well. With, and speaking of the climax, I like I said, although it was spoiled, what made it for me was how the build up, the reveal, and the resolution. Again, a bit rushed, but then again, you're only limited to 75 minutes per movie, so they had to cut stuff out or just didn't bother with certain things. But eh, another good thing was the dynamic between the human Twilight and Sunset. Their own personal conflicts kind of played well off of each other, and the how they interacted, especially near the end, worked very well. As for the downside, Principal Cinch was at best a mediocre antagonist, and as opposed to a villain, mostly there just to influence human Twilight's decisions, and her motivations were uh, not well, not much to get invested in. The script could have been a little. The writers could have proofread the script a little bit, especially when they referred to Johnny Armor as an alumni instead of an alumnus. But that's just. And there were some animation errors that you probably only catch after several viewings, but they're easily ignored. And lastly, speaking of antagonists, the Shadow Bolts that teamed up alongside Twilight only existed as rivals for the rest of the main cast, and their personalities were paper thin at most. So we're probably I'd rather see a reappearance by the Sirens rather than them. So that being said, I'd have to say, looking forward to Legend of Everfree when it comes out in about 2 days. One thing I would like to see, uh, please Hasbro do something with Flash Sentry. I'm tired of every time he comes up on the screen just saying, "Hey, Brad." So, but I wouldn't hold my breath. So, anyways, between now and my next video, I'm probably gonna see that movie and maybe give my thoughts on it after the fact. Oh, jeez, I can't believe I quoted Silver Quill. Sorry about that. So, anyways, I'll see you guys around.